morning and welcome to the Museum of Cornish Life. My name is Isabel and I'm the Community Engagement Curator. And this morning for our collection tour, I'm actually going to focus on one item. As I'm sure many of you will know, this week is Mental Health Awareness Week. And so I'm back with our World War II collection to look at a little pack that was devised to help with occupational therapy. So I'm just going to turn the camera around, give you a little another refresh of our lovely World War II. I'm just going to turn the camera around so you can see the pack that I'm talking about. She says technical hitch. There we go. Sorry, trying to hit the camera with gloves on is quite tricky, I'm finding. So the pack that I want to look at is this Art Needlework by Penelope. And if I come a little bit closer, hopefully you can see, it says it's specially produced under Board of Trade licenses to be used exclusively for the occupational therapy purposes for all services and civilian hospitals or for educational purposes for Her Majesty's forces. The reason I've chosen this is that I think at the moment, as particularly in lockdown, all of us are aware that it is actually really important to keep our minds healthy as well as our bodies healthy. And this was something that was obviously developed because of the World Wars as well, and the rehabilitation of soldiers. Actually, occupational therapy is a relatively new profession and science. The term occupational therapy first came in actually 1914. And in 1915, a group of women were actually sent to the front in France to help rehabilitate the soldiers there. And they were called the Bluebirds. In the UK, occupational therapy as a science came a little bit later, and there was a lot of work done in Scotland by Margaret Barr Fulton, but it was Dr. Elizabeth Casson who, having seen the work in America, brought it back to the UK and opened the first school for occupational therapy in Bristol, actually. Then, of course, unfortunately, the First World War was not the war to end all wars, and we did have the Second World War, and occupational therapy became a really vital part of the rehabilitation of soldiers. And this was a pack that was created to be used by soldiers. And it is, I think it's really wonderful. So as you can see, the packaging has been well used and it is a little bit torn. But inside, once you open this pack, this is what the soldiers would see. They would first of all see these beautiful silks, because this is an embroidery pack. This is for creating something beautiful as well as something practical. And that was very important for at the time for the occupational therapy. It was about doing something that was useful, but also something that helped with the rehabilitation, particularly for needlework in this case, for your hands, obviously, and for coordination and for your sight. But I think also there was a real desire to bring back something that was beautiful and something that the soldiers would recognise from their normal lives and maybe make them think about home and about being able to be back at home. So first of all, you have these absolutely beautiful silks, such lovely colours. And then in each pack, there was a little instruction. As you can see, this says Needlework by Forces. Oh, sorry, shaky hands. And this is a tablecloth. And I'm sure you can see it's actually quite big. Let me stand all the way back. Hopefully you can see it a bit better. This is quite big, and it would have had to have been put on a frame. And again, frames would have been created by the soldiers at the time. And if I come in a bit closer, hopefully you can see that actually the design for this one are tulips, and they're really beautiful. And I think what a lovely idea to inspire and teach just how to sew and how to do tapestry, but actually to choose tulips, which are beautiful flowers, the spring and early summer flowers. And I imagine at wartime, obviously the countryside where the war was taking place would have been decimated. There'd be no flowers. There'd be nothing joyful to look at. So to have this and to create this, I think would have been really inspiring. And if I come down, you can see that this says that this is a Penelope Design 01. So we know this is the biggest one. This is a tablecloth. And then there's a little detail which I love here that says, cut away the dotted portions. And if I zoom in, you can see that this would have been quite tricky to do because these dotted portions are well within the design. So you've got this tablecloth, and as you can see, the design goes all the way around to the edges. I'll show you all the way around. So it would have taken quite a long time to obviously do something like this. So this probably would have been given to a soldier that maybe would have been being rehabilitated for quite a while. But I've also done a little bit of research, and I found out that actually these were also issued to soldiers who weren't being rehabilitated, but as a way of actually giving them something to do, to occupy their minds, maybe when they weren't on active service as well. And then, so you've got your little flyer here that shows you what to do. I'm just going to turn the page over. Oops. I'm very careful because it is quite fragile. And as you can see, it tells you all the materials that you're going to need. Shows you who's produced. This one was actually produced in Manchester. And then, if I turn this page over again, oops, just being careful. Oh, it actually shows you exactly what to do. Shows you here, gives you an example of the stitches. You've got A, B and C stitch. And then on the side, if I just pop my finger on there, hopefully you can see, it actually shows you how to do the stitches. Although, of course, there were people who would have been explaining how to do these stitches as well, I'm sure. And then on the back, it gives you a guide as to which colours you should use in which area of your design. However, I'm sure that actually people would probably also be encouraged to use the colours as they wanted to. I think what's quite interesting is that these were used all over the world. It wasn't just maybe on the European front. And there's a fantastic photograph, which I'm hoping you can see there, of some soldiers engaged in doing occupational therapy. And these were in North Africa and the Middle East. And actually, this is part of the Imperial War Museum collection. So if you'd like to see more photographs, they do have quite a few in their collection that look at occupational therapy, as well as, of course, other aspects of the war. But if I zoom in, hopefully you can see that in the background there are some people that are doing this kind of tapestry work. Of course, other things were also done. It's rope making, metal, maybe some metal work, definitely some woodwork. But just, again, kind of arts and crafts and things to occupy the mind. The father of occupational therapy is an American called William Rush Dunton, and he said, "Occupation is as necessary to life as food and drink. Every being should have both food and drink and occupation." And I think at this time particularly, when for some of us being able to be out and be active and to feel like we're being useful can be quite tricky. And I know that a lot of people have started to take up crafts and have started to take up sewing, either for themselves and pleasure or either to create something to brighten up somebody else's day or to be useful. And I know, particularly if we're not having the best day or if we're very worried about things, being able to focus on something that takes care and attention in the way that doing this design would really helps to calm the mind and make us feel better. I hope you've enjoyed having a little look at this beautiful pack. This pack is part of our collection, but obviously normally it is folded away, so you can only see the outside packaging. So I hope you've enjoyed having a little look at what's inside. Tomorrow is Thursday, and it's our Museum Makes Day. And following on with the mental health and wellbeing theme, we are going to be doing art needlework, and using things that you just have at home. You're going to be able to create your own needlework frame and have a go at making your own design. So thank you very much for joining us here at the museum, and I hope you've enjoyed this look at our collection.